Did you just put the ring on, or are you in the first few years of your marriage? Welcome to the First Year Marriage Show, the podcast dedicated to helping newlyweds navigate the first few years of marriage. My husband, Marcus, and I will be sharing marriage tips to help you build a strong foundation for your marriage. We believe having a strong foundation is essential to having a happy, healthy, and lasting marriage. We will also be learning from the experiences of awesome married couples who have been where you are today, taking from them lessons to help you build a strong foundation for the lasting marriage you desire. Take a deep breath, relax, learn, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. We hope you all had a great weekend. If you're new to this podcast, make sure you listen to the past episodes to learn more from the 25 plus couples who have shared their first year marriage stories. This week, I'll be sharing 20 marriage lessons we learned during our first year of marriage. It's one of our most read blog posts on our website, and we thought it would be beneficial to share it here on the podcast. If you prefer reading, we'll put the link to it in the show notes, which can be found at firstyearmarriage.com/32. The first lesson we learned in the first year of our marriage was that men and women communicate differently. We speak different languages. I know you hear it all the time, but actually experiencing it is something else. The first few months, I can remember not having Marcus understand me, and I'd get so frustrated. We'd be using the same kind of words, but we'd each have different meanings. We both learned to communicate vastly differently. So take the time to think of another way to explain something to your spouse. Try looking at it through their eyes. Listen through their ears. The second lesson we learned in the first year of our marriage was to trust God. This marriage lesson has been very important for our whole marriage so far. We've had a lot of things happen in the first year of our marriage, and since then, it's been up and down, up and down, up and down. From not knowing how we were going to pay the next bill or rent for the month to surprise pregnancies, it's been an up and down battle. There were points where all we had left was to just trust a higher power and just trust God and cling to each other. Lesson number 3 was to agree on finances and to budget monthly. Marcus introduced me to Dave Ramsey when we were dating, and at first I really couldn't stand it. I just felt kind of constrained, like I had to think about every penny I was spending, and I couldn't buy the things I wanted on credit. We had to wait till we had it in our hands. It really frustrated me. Eventually, I actually listened, and I heard the wisdom in the message. By agreeing on our finances and budgeting every month together, it's opened up lines of communication that we never thought was possible. We each get a say on how we spend our money. We each have an equal say. We come up to the table and we're like, hey, I think food for this month should cost this much. I'm usually, hey, let's spend this much money on food. And Marcus is like, well, no, let's spend this much money. So we get to talk and agree, and both of us compromise, and we come up with a solution and a figure that we can both agree on. It's helped us to be on the same page as working towards the same goals, financial goals that we've set. It's just made it easier to talk about money. By talking about money, it's made it easier to talk about other things in our relationship. Number 4 was to seek help and guidance when we needed it. There was a few times when we needed help, and we learned not to be so prideful, and we had to ask when it was necessary. I think that there's a fine line between, seeking guidance and help when you need it and kind of oversharing things that should be between you and your husband. An example would be like an argument that you had or a disagreement, and you think your spouse messed up and you guys have fixed it and you're working to do better next time. But you decide to share that with a family member or a friend. That's going to affect how that family member or friend views your spouse. They don't love them like you do, and they don't forgive them as easily. But more than that, that's not you seeking guidance and help if you guys have worked out the problem and you're going to do better. It's different when you're talking about abuse and addiction. For most arguments and disagreements with couples, this is an issue that you wouldn't want to just be sharing. This is something that should stay between you and your spouse, in our opinion. Again, like I said, it's different if there's an addiction or abuse going on, then absolutely seek help right away. But as far as sharing and asking for advice when you need it, If you're having a problem or an issue and you guys can't come to an agreement, then you really do need to seek some outside help. If, maybe they can just help you talk through it. They can just come in as a mediator, somebody who's on the middle ground that can help you work through this issue together. So don't be afraid to seek help and guidance when you need it, when you can't agree on something or come to a compromise. The fifth lesson we learned in our first year of marriage was to be patient and calm, that you will have disagreements. This was another of the big marriage lessons for us. We are certain that being patient is very important in any marriage. It was a huge, huge, huge lesson for me personally. Marcus is generally a patient person by nature, but I was the total opposite. And if you've listened to any of our other episodes or read any of our blogs, then I've admitted that. The important thing is to remember the golden rule, and you treat your spouse how you want to be treated. You need to learn how to disagree respectfully. You're both different people with different personalities, so you are going to disagree at some point. The important thing is that you disagree respectfully, and it's really nice actually knowing that you both bring different things to the table. You both have different ways of thinking about things, different ways of looking at things, and that's a good thing. No married couple, nobody should have the same mind frame as far as like thinking the same and doing everything the same, because it'd be kind of boring that way, wouldn't it? You can celebrate each other's differences and know that you do not complete each other, but you complement each other. Number 6 would be to communicate and discuss everything. Do never, ever, ever assume. You always ask. That's been huge because, you can think, hey, I'm going to go to the store, and by the time I get done, my husband's going to have all this time to do the dishes for me and start the laundry, and then when I get home, I can finish up this, that, and the other thing. But not actually communicating that to your partner is where it can get a little fuzzy. Make sure that you ask them, because they could be like, hey, my wife's gone to the store, my partner's gone to the store, and now I have all this free time. I can get all these other things done that I need to get done. And then he doesn't get to what you wanted him to get done, what you wanted him to get to. So really, make sure you communicate and you discuss everything, all the little things. Never assume, make sure you ask. This marriage lesson helps lay the foundation of your marriage, and it enables you to really get to know your spouse. We're always changing, and there's always something new to learn. Number 7 is to be yourself. Otherwise, it's an act. You always hear how people change after they say, I do, right? We think it's because they weren't totally real to begin with. Sometimes we want to change parts of ourselves to be better and mold ourselves into what we think our partner wants. But that isn't the case, because you're going to be married to them hopefully forever, right? So you can't be pretending and putting on a facade the whole time. You have to make sure that you are being yourself. Yourself is also going to change throughout time. I mean, if it doesn't, then there's something wrong. But you should always be growing and learning and experiencing. And so in order to have a healthy relationship, you need to make sure that you are yourself. Even the parts that your spouse may not generally like, you have to learn to work together. You have to learn to celebrate each other's differences again. In the same way, you have to love your spouse for being themselves. I'm not saying that you can never change certain habits and things that you really don't like about each other. Like, I never really arranged my shoes in my closet. My husband likes it that way. So I made an effort to make sure that I would clean out my closet every now and then and make sure it was organized. And it would last, a little while at least, and then I'd do it again. And that was to help him. He changes a lot for me, and I could do this little thing for him. So there's certain things that he did, like leaving the toilet seat up, and I wanted it down, so he leaves it down for me. Things like that. It's just about learning how to work together and appreciate each other for being yourself and not putting on an act, and learning how to have a healthy compromise. Number 8 is to communicate your needs. If I needed Marcus to be more romantic, I have to tell him, and I have to show him how. that I want him to be more romantic. He can't read my mind. If he needed me to straighten my shoes in the entryway, he had to tell me and remind me a few times. It's so important. I really can't stress this enough, to communicate your needs. It can be really hard at first, to ask for what you want. Ask for how you want it. I mean, this translates all through your relationship in your marriage. I mean, from sex in the bedroom to how you want to be romanced to, hey honey, I need some time to myself. I need to just relax and I need to read a book. Or I really need this to-do list done. I mean, it's all over your relationship. Hey honey, I'm really not feeling like you're really spending enough time with me. Or honey, I feel like I need some space because we're spending too much time together. So again, I'm just going to reiterate it. Your spouse cannot read your mind, so you need to communicate your needs. I know this can be really uncomfortable for some people in the beginning, especially when you're talking about in the bedroom, but trust me, it's all worth it. The awkwardness will fade away eventually, and things are going to get better because you'll both be having your needs fulfilled. Hopefully, if your spouse and you are working towards fulfilling each other's needs. The first step in that is to communicate your needs, though. Number 9 is marriage expectations. We didn't even know we had marriage expectations. We were both raised in different families with different normals. So each family has a different culture, let alone the fact that Marcus is from Ghana and I'm from the US. So we are literally in different cultures. So with that, we bring different expectations to the marriage. Like, oh my goodness, one example would be that Marcus expected me to take care of a lot of the household stuff because his mom and his sister did, or the kids did, and I expected Marcus to take out the trash, but in his family, his mom did that, or, the women took care of everything in the house. So I had to communicate with him and be like, I'm expecting you to take care of the trash. Can you do that for me? So it was really about, again, finding the compromise, working together, and realizing that we had these expectations. So what helped was thinking about it individually and then coming together whenever we'd realize that, hey, I was expecting this and you're expecting something different. What can we create for our family? The 10th lesson is don't expect your spouse to know what is in your head or read your mind. I know I mentioned this before, but it's really important and it deserves its own number. Communicate. Number 11 is to work as a team and for each other. Marriage is 100%, 100%. It's not 50-50. If you're only giving 50% to something and you're expecting your spouse to only give 50%, then it's just not going to work. It's not equal work all the time. Sometimes one spouse needs a little more support or for you to pick up the slack. Number 11 is to work as a team and for each other. If you're working as a team, then you're both working towards the same goal. You're both giving 100%. It's not 50-50. If you're both giving 50-50, then I promise you your marriage will most likely fail. If it doesn't end in divorce, then it's just not going to be a happy marriage. You both need to be giving 100% in order to have the most fulfilled and happy and healthy marriage that you desire. When you work as a team, you're both working towards the same goals, and it's just so important to know that your spouse is your teammate. It's not somebody you're trying to one-up. They are your teammate. They are there to walk with you through this life by your side. Stick together through the hard times when they come, because they will come. It's part of life, but they'll be there for the good as well. Number 12 is to be truly unified. Doing everything I already mentioned, you will learn this marriage lesson. It's all about being unified, being on the same page, the same team, working together. Number 13 is don't rush into having babies if you can help it. Spend the first year of marriage getting to know each other as a married couple. I'll tell you right now from having 2 kids that they change absolutely everything. So we're really thankful that we did not have a baby or even a pregnancy that first year that we were married. Soon after, but not the first year. It really helped us adjust to each other and set a really strong foundation for our marriage. Not that you can't do that, it just adds extra stress if you have a child in your first year of marriage. The more time you spend together before the kids arrive, the better. Obviously not too long, but at least a year before getting pregnant is our recommendation for newlyweds. Number 14 is how not to disrespect your spouse, privately and publicly. I didn't even realize I was doing this, and I felt awful once I realized I was disrespecting my husband, Marcus. I'm sarcastic in nature as a defense mechanism, and I've learned how to rein that in. But at first, I didn't realize that I was disrespecting him. The book Love and Respect by Emerson Eggerichs, I don't really know how to pronounce that last name there, but it's a must-read for this marriage lesson. We also have a list of other marriage books for couples that can be found on our website. We'll put a link in the show notes. Number 15 is to build up your house. I love talking about my husband to whoever will listen, as I focus on all his good attributes. The positive thoughts turn into words, love, and respect for my husband. The same goes for husbands towards wives. Building up your house is basically it's the opposite of what I just mentioned, number 14. It's respecting your spouse. It's building them up, encouraging them, feeding it. It's just helping that love and respect to grow. Sometimes it's really hard at first for some people. So if you think about things that you're thankful for, or every time you have a negative thought or feeling towards your spouse, you say, okay, what am I thankful about my spouse for? What do I like that they do? It doesn't have to be love that they do. But the more you think I'm a positive, the more that positive feeling will grow, and you're going to be feeding that. So then eventually you're going to be able to feel more positive about them and speak more positive about them. Number 16 is we give love differently and we receive love differently. That's right. I'll bring back in the 5 love languages, which is a must read for your first year of marriage. It's really interesting to find out how you receive and you feel love as a person, and then see how your spouse does receive and give love. And you also realize that the way you receive love, the way you feel the most loved, is the way you are trying to love your spouse, even if that's not their love language. So there's a free quiz for the 5 love languages, and we'll have links to all of that, the book and the quiz in the show notes. Number 17 is balance different personalities. One of us is an introvert and one of us is an extrovert. One of us is a saver and the other is a spender. We have a lot of other differences. We've had to learn to balance our life with these opposites. And again, remember, we want to celebrate the differences of each other's spouses. Number 18 is how to listen, pay attention, and not just hear. It is so easy to get distracted today. Put the phone down when your spouse is talking. I'll admit right now, I'm bad at this. We've been working through this recently again, actually, not just our first year of marriage, but we make sure that we have each other's attention before we talk, and then we don't blame them if we didn't do that, because it's really hard, especially with our 2 kids, and we've got our phones and all, everything going on online. We just need to make sure that we listen to our spouse and we pay attention, and we don't just, hear them and go about our business. Yeah, I hear your voice, Sometimes when Marcus is busy with his business stuff, I'll say, honey, let me know when you have a minute. I have something I need to ask or something I need to tell you. This works wonders because I don't feel ignored and get frustrated, and I've learned the patience to wait, because if it's not, something super important that needs to be talked about right then and there, I'll just wait and say, when you're done with that, let me know. And if it's going to take a while, I'll be like, hey, honey, how long is this going to take before you have a minute for me? Just so I can get an idea. Number 19 is taking time aside with no distractions to connect with each other every day, even if it's just 5 minutes. I personally recommend probably somewhere in the 15, 30-minute range. In the beginning of our marriage, it was really hard because we were both so busy working multiple jobs, school, and we were just in passing a lot, opposite shifts sometimes, and it wasn't easy. But we made time to connect, even if it was just 5 minutes. Just, hey, honey, how was your day? what happened today? I love you, things like that. It shouldn't be that little every day, but if you have, 1 or 2 days that is just like that, then that's all you have, and take advantage of that time. This is so important, especially when you have children, as you can hear them in the background. We as humans grow and change. If we don't take the time to connect with each other, I think that's where the growing apart happens. Do something together and talk. You can both have your different hobbies. In fact, we encourage that. It's so important to grow as individuals so that you can be a stronger couple. Just make sure you take that time to reconnect. Otherwise, like I said, that's where a lot of the growing apart happens. Number 20, the last but not least, is learning to balance being yourself, an independent person, while also being part of your marriage with your spouse. You are one and you are separate. If you ever heard those people who said, I just lost myself somewhere in the relationship, somewhere in the marriage, and I need to find myself, or I don't know who I am anymore. It's easy sometimes to get lost in the role of mother, wife, husband, father, business owner, or whatever hat you wear. We have to remember to take some me time. Now that we have children, I call it mommy time. We have to give each other the space to be alone, do our own hobbies, pursue goals, interests, reading and learning, experimenting, while remember to do the same together and connecting. Tell your spouse, hey, I'm learning this. Hey, I know you're not really interested in this, but let me just tell you this one little thing that happened. It's so, so important. It's one of the most important marriage lessons that we've learned that follows us all through our marriage. Because we're always growing and we're always learning as individuals and as people, and it's just so important to come together, connect, and grow together as a couple. Connect together as a couple. Learning these marriage lessons did not come to us in 1 minute. We didn't learn these overnight. Therefore, you should not expect to also learn them overnight. It'll take some time, dedication, and intentional effort on your part to learn and apply these marriage lessons in your life and marriage. The benefits of these marriage lessons are immense. We are a personal example of that. They will certainly improve your marriage. I can promise that. If you practice just one of these a week, and you're always reviewing, I really think that's going to help you. And you could space out like, hey, I need to practice one every 2 weeks. I need to make sure I'm listening to my spouse this week. Really listening, and you work on that, and then you add another thing, then it won't be so overwhelming. But trust me, these are 20 of the most important lessons we learned in our first year of marriage, and they have helped other people. One of our most popular blog posts, like I mentioned in the beginning, and we really thought that it was important enough to share today on the podcast. We hope this helps you. We'd love to hear about it. You can email us and let us know how this has helped you in your marriage at firstyearmarriage@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. To submit a question, feedback, or suggestions for the podcast, visit firstyearmarriage.com/feedback. Apply what you've learned today and build a strong foundation for the happy, healthy, and lasting marriage you desire. Enjoy your marriage. Enjoy your life.